Welcome to the Shared Practices podcast. This is your host, Dr. Richard Lowe. I am stoked that we finally got Ashley Ladder on the podcast. He is a giant in the industry of case acceptance, someone who's helped thousands of doctors be more comfortable talking to patients. So, and a huge shout out and thank you to Dr. Aaron Elliott, who connected us and reminded me like, oh, you have to get Ashley on. And he's in the UK, he's a busy man, and I was very, very grateful for this opportunity to interview him. So here we go with Ashley Ladder. One frustrating thing when dealing with labs is waiting on a case and not knowing where stuff is. You or one of your team members has to call in, have the patient's info, you get a hold of the person, they go track it. It takes a while, it's inconvenient. Lab Pronto with Blue Sky Bio has introduced a solution that I hope we can get industry-wide for dental labs. And what they do is once you've submitted your case, they notify the dentist via email and text throughout the process as the order is being fulfilled. So step 1, you place the order. Step 2, they receive it. They send it to a network of top-tier labs with relevant knowledge and experience. Step 3, the lab with immediate available time claims the job, prepares the relevant parts or digital plan, and then step 4, the lab completes the order and returns the part or dental service to the dentist. So what do they offer right now? Orthodontic services including orthodontic plans, model printing, and aligner fabrication. Surgical guide services including treatment planning and surgical guide fabrication. In the future, we're looking at things like denture design and fabrication, crown and bridge, radiology report. It's pretty exciting. Lab Pronto is changing the way we interact with our labs. Lab Pronto from Blue Sky Bio. I have with me today Ashley Ladder, which this is amazing. This is all kind of coming full circle. I think this is going to be one of our last episodes in our case acceptance season. And I remember hearing Ashley on Gary Takas's podcast. Oh, it's got to be 5-6 years ago, and thinking like, man, this is amazing content. This is such good information that every dentist needs to hear. And that's when I was still in dental school. So for me, this is kind of surreal to have Ashley on the show, because back before a podcast was even on my radar or possibility, I had the thought, I need to take this course. I need to meet Ashley Ladder. And here we are talking. So Ashley, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good to be here, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Well, for those who aren't familiar with your work and what you do, share with us how you ended up kind of being a king of this space within dentistry of teaching dentists how to present treatment and how to get better case acceptance. How did this journey come about?
Yeah, great, good question. So here's the 5-minute version, but there's a really good lesson in here for the dentists who are listening to this, so please bear with me. So I used to work with the Dale Carnegie organization. You're probably familiar with Dale Carnegie, or most people might be.
Right.
Dale Carnegie wrote the book How to Influence and Influence People. And I used to deliver their training courses for them in Manchester. And one day I was delivering a sales course, and to cut a very, very long story short, we had a couple of dentists on the program with us. And I was sort of racking my brains why 2 dentists were taking a sales course. And I got to meet them before the course started, and they were telling me that they were great dentists. They could place veneers, crowns, implants, do all the funky dentistry. But what they couldn't do was sell it. What they couldn't do was communicate it. They were terrible at discussing fees. They would always undercharge for some reason. And that's why they wanted my help. So they took part in this course. And as they left the program, I asked them how was it, and they put the thumbs up, but I didn't really think they really enjoyed it. So I said to them, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a ring in about 6 weeks, and I'll just be curious to see how you get on with the material. So sort of 6 weeks later, I'm lying on my couch at home, and I'm wondering, how the course went. Should I ring them? Should I not? Should I ring them? Should I not? And eventually decided to pick the phone up, and I'm glad I did, because sort of both of them told me that their treatment plan acceptance had increased. More patients were saying yes to their treatment. They weren't discounting anymore. But the main thing they told me was, for the first time ever, they were delivering the dentistry they loved to do and their patients wanted. And that was the key lesson, really, I took away. And I kept in touch with these guys for a long while, and actually became very, very good friends with one of the dentists, a dentist there called Neil Sampson. And it was quite a bit of a while away after, but things were changing a lot in the UK dental market. I had left Carnegie and kept in touch with Neil. And I thought to myself one day, wouldn't it be a good idea to deliver a course just for dentists? So Neil just helped me, and we put this really word of mouth. And these two dentists told their mates. And then I delivered what we called at the time the ethical sales and communication course to dentists. And this was about 25 dentists. We did it in Oxford, near the university there. And it was a great success. And I rang all 25, 26 dentists up, and they all said the same. Our treatment plan acceptance had increased. More patients were saying yes. We weren't discounting. Would you do a course again? We'd like to bring our team with. And really, the journey started there. So for the first few years, it was a bit of a slow burner, really. I was probably delivering about maybe 3 or 4 courses a year. And then I got asked to speak at, dental conferences, started writing lots of articles, doing and getting asked to speak everywhere. And before I knew it, I was, if you fast forward today, which is probably 24, 25 years later, I've now delivered this ethical sales and communication course to about 20,000 people worldwide. I go to the States about 2 or 3 times a year. In fact, I'm off to Nashville and Minneapolis in about 3 weeks. I've been to India, I've been to Australia. We go to Australia once a year, all over the UK. And we have a team of 8 now, 3 instructors, although I still deliver the vast majority of the training. I've written a couple of books, Don't Wait for the Tooth Fairy and How to Discuss Fees with Confidence and Achieve the Income That Your Services Deserve, which do really well. We do online courses, and we do about 10 different programs today, fast forward today. And that's it, really. I've got my own training centre here in Manchester. We have a 3,500 square foot building. And tonight I'm off to London to deliver a 2-day course down in London. We are absolutely bombed out, and it all started from basically 2 dentists. So the lesson is that you need to ring your patients up at home. So dentists there, if you've got a difficult patient, or maybe you've done some treatment on a patient and it was a big procedure, make the phone calls, ring the patients up at home. 3 or 4 phone calls a day, 4 or 5 days a week. You'll be hitting 15, 20 patients. Could be close on to 800-900 a year. And the goodwill it brings, it will be phenomenal to your business. It really will. And if I hadn't made those 2 phone calls, I'm not quite sure, I would be where I am today. But those 2 phone calls basically were life-changing calls, and I'm glad I made them.
That's amazing. That's an incredible journey. And it's awesome that you've been doing this for over 20 years of teaching dentists how to better increase their case acceptance. And one of the things it seemed like from both from the website and from talking with Dr. Erin Elliott, who connected us originally, she raved about your course, and she said that one of the things in the course was that it wasn't just a ton of lecturing. It was a lot more interactive and involved and role-playing and actually applying it. So, was that how the course was always structured? When did you make that shift, or how did you kind of come to that, where rather than just kind of giving everyone the information, you're actually practicing this, with the dentist at your course?
Well, the great question. You see, the stuff I share with dentists is a lot is about mindset, and a lot of it is about changing behavior. And, you can give people the knowledge, but unless they actually, put this into practice, nothing changes. So what we do is we give people the strategies. So I've got an 8-step approach to ethical selling in the consultation, from how to build rapport right through to gaining commitment. There's 8 steps I cover. And what we do is we break it down over 2 days. It's an 18-hour course. And we give people the techniques, the communication skills. I will then give examples, or sometimes I have other dentists from who have done the program before. They will share examples. They share how they do it, and then we get the delegates to practice it, and then I coach them. So the best analogy I can give you, it's a bit like learning how to drive a car. The instructor will show you, you get behind the wheel, you practice, and the instructor coaches you. Now, what happens is over 2 full days, because we're practicing and practicing and practicing, what happens is you change behavior, you become more confident, you develop new skills, your attitude changes, but your whole mindset changes as well. And when you go back in the practice, you put it, dentists put it into practice the next day, and they get immediate results. There's no exaggeration to say that if a dentist takes my course on a Monday and Tuesday, by Wednesday evening they can recoup all their investment of the money back and the 2 days loss of earnings from the course. And it changes their lives, basically. So they get to deliver the dentistry they love to do, that on most occasions patients wanted, and it just changes everything about what they do and the whole mindset. So that's what we do, and it works really, really well. So yeah, when people come on my courses, it's not a sit down, write notes. We're going to tell you you're going to work hard, but in a very, very inspirational, positive way. People love the courses, and we do have a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. I love that. So you mentioned mindset work there, and one of the things that I've recognized from your content and from kind of my own experience is that it's really easy to feel guilty about what we're charging patients. Even just the other day, my father-in-law was complaining because he'd gotten a statement back and they'd run out of their insurance benefit for the year, and he's like, how is he charging over $2,000? This is before I'm not practicing here locally yet. And so I wasn't able to take care of my father-in-law, my mother-in-law. And so she ended up having crown lengthening and a crown. And so, it's a couple procedures in one, and, their insurance isn't covering it. So they're looking at a larger bill than they're used to. And I found myself feeling guilty, like this weird sense in my stomach of like, oh, like, yeah, man, dentistry is expensive, and feeling bad and feeling apologetic, feeling defensive. So where does that come from, and what do we do with that?
Where does it come from? Great question. Well, if you take the United Kingdom for example, right, and I don't think it's very different to the States, because yours is a lot of insurance-based work. But if you take the UK, a lot of my work is traditionally working with, say, National Health Service dentists. Now, a National Health Service dentist, 1 minute they're saying to the patient it's free, and the next minute they're saying to the patient it's 3,000. So it's the same words, different spelling, obviously, but it's a big difference. So the mindset for a National Health Service dentist in the past is that the fees they've charged have been very low. Now, in the UK at the present moment, and it's been happening now for the last few years, is that there's less money going into dentistry in the UK because the government just can't afford to put all the money they want to. So a lot of dentists in the National Health Service have not had pay rises for a number of years now. They've seen contract cut, so they really do now need to grow the private right. side of it. Because if they don't grow the private side, they really are going to struggle moving forward. So the mindset of a dentist in the past has been, charging maybe $300 for a crown. But now, a private crown now they've got to start charging $900, maybe even $1,000, depending on which part of the country it is. Well, it's a massive shift there. So they seriously undercharge for what they do. So they will discount the fee in their head, thinking that the cheaper they make it, then the more likely it is that the patient will take up the treatment. But what obviously they don't realize is what the costs are, how long it takes, and any 10% reduction in the fees, a 30% reduction in net profit. So in the UK, that's been something that's happening here. That's where traditionally it's happened, the challenge that dentists have in the UK. But I find it all over the world as well. And I think the other reason is that, in dentistry, you're taught dentistry. You're not taught any communication or very little is taught on business. In fact, I have been told that I should be there in business at university teaching these skills. So they get no teaching at all about business and and how to charge and what and things costs. So and I think also dentists, and I'm generalizing. I'm not saying all dentists are like this, but
Sure.
they have. So I am generalizing here. But by the way, I've spent 29,000 hours training dentists. And probably spent 29,000 hours having meals and in the bars with them at night time as well.
You have a little bit of authority to generalize.
So
here.
I have a little bit, yeah. So I know, but a lot of them dentists devalue what they do. You know, they have got low confidence levels. They're very technical about they do. So they have that as well on top of all the other things on top of dentistry. And also you've got to think about when a patient walks in and the first thing sometimes they say to the dentist is, "I hate coming to the dentist."
Right.
So they're on a back foot to start off with. So I think it's a combination of a few reasons that I've mentioned here. And what we do on our courses and all my educations and my books is trying to change that mindset of actually what you do provide is of significant value to the patient. In many occasions, your treatments can change lives. You know, if you, for example, an implant treatment or, straightening teeth, for example, if you get the patient back in the chair, a month after you've completed the treatment and ask them a series of questions, because we talk about how to get video testimonials and ask them how they feel about the treatment, what benefits they've gained, what difference it's made to their lives. The patients will tell you that you've had a massive difference, you made a significant difference to their lives. In which case, once you hear their stories, it should make you feel a lot more confident about what you charge and the difference you actually do make, because you are changing people's lives every day.
Okay, so what you're saying is a great one really straightforward way to change your own mindset about the value you provide is almost like you were saying earlier with making those phone calls to those two dentists and ask them about that course.
Yeah.
Kind of same thing, getting feedback from patients who you've done major treatment on and getting their experience and even recording it, on a video testimonial. Because just having, it's like proof, and you can go back and watch it again if you ever doubt yourself for a minute.
Well, I mean, if you want to, do you want to explore video testimonials just for a few minutes?
Sure, let's do it.
I mean, to be honest with you, the video testimonial is by far all dentists should get video testimonials from their patients when they've completed, particularly a cosmetic or treatment, and basically what you're doing is you are asking them a series of questions about what difference. What difference patients have experienced by having your treatment. What was life like before, and what's life like now after? And they'll tell you the significant difference they've made in new levels of confidence. They can smile more, they can communicate more, they can go to parties without hiding in the corner, they can have the pictures taken without the hand over the mouth, that type of thing. They can eat certain foods that they couldn't eat before. Now, if you hear their stories and hear the difference, record it, you can put that on your website, you can show future payments. That on its own should make you feel more comfortable about charging fees. It should make you a lot more confident that when you discuss a fee, you can actually see, well, actually, you're not paying for an implant, you're actually paying for, this is the difference it's going to make to your lives. I had just two dentists last week. It was really funny. They're interested in taking a course with me, and this dentist wrote back to me and said, "Look, I've been to your YouTube channel. I'm really interested in taking your course, but I notice you only work with private dentists, and I can see the results that you've got with them." Now, on my YouTube channel, I must have nearly 200 videos there now, and a lot of them are my education, but a lot of them are my clients giving me video testimonials. And what they hadn't done is they probably looked at the first 7, but hadn't gone down and looked at number 50 to 57, which were all National Health Service dentists from the same group that they work with, explaining the major benefits. So all I did was send them the links. I said, "Look, please watch these. These are people from your group, and these are the results I've got. watch them, and you can see the difference it made. They came back within 24 hours and they said, look, please sign us up. We know those people, and yet we can see the difference you've made. So video testimonials are by far, not only will they help you increase case acceptance, but also give you the confidence that actually what you do is making a difference to people's life, and what you do charge is really worth it.
So it's kind of a twofold thing. It's increasing your case acceptance because patients are coming to your practice almost with trust pre-baked in, because they've seen the power of this, they've seen the transformation, and it's giving you more confidence and giving you more feedback and more just kind of mental ability to feel good about your fees. So what about, when someone they think about their fees, you discussed it in terms of value being provided. Sometimes we might fall back into the trap of looking at our costs and feeling like, okay, everything costs X, Y, and Z. And if you add all that up and then, you're adding something on top of that, and that's my fee. Do you see a danger in kind of looking at it from a cost mentality versus like a value mentality? I'm just trying to unpack kind of the different ways that we think about how much we're charging our patients and the value of what we provide. So one of the challenges that we're asking you to take on in this season is to think about your practice from the perspective of a patient. So to go through the patient experience of how they're checked in, treated, checked out, and part of that is impacted by the physical layout of your office. Whether you realize that the layout of the office that you're in is less than perfect, or you're doing a startup and want to have the best layout and don't know where to start, Design Ergonomics is here to help. We've partnered with Design Ergonomics because they've been doing this for 20 years, and they know exactly how to create office floor plans that flow, make sense, and feel natural to your patients. And unlike maybe some of the free floor plans that you'll get from suppliers, these are going to maximize your square footage and are not just designed to get you to spend more with that supply company. The first thing that they do is called a blocking diagram, which is basically just a conceptual outline of your practice without all the little nitty-gritty details. That way, you don't end up with a high-end consult room sandwiched in between a compressor, an autoclave, and the bathroom. You laugh, but sometimes this happens. It's super easy. Their team can remotely evaluate your layout and walk you through your design to make sure you're maximizing productivity and allowing for future growth. To help you get started today, Design Ergonomics is providing a special offer to Shared Practices listeners. If you go to www.desergo.com and enter the promo code DESIGN today, it's 2 separate words, you get $500 off. That's right, $500 off their already specially priced blocking diagram and floor plan bundle. This discount is limited time only, and it's only for Shared Practices listeners. Go to www.desergo.com, promo code DESIGN today for $500 off your blocking diagram and floor plan bundle.
Right. Do you want to know, and again, I am generalizing, but would you like to know how many offices, dental practices charge? Would you like to work? I'm going to share with you what they do.
I'd love it.
They'll go into a town and they'll ring up their 5 to 8 competitors, or the dentists closer to them. They'll ring them all up and find out how much certain treatments are. They'll get a figure from the top, they'll get a figure from the bottom, and then they go straight in the middle. So that is the scientific way of how most dental practices charge or set their fees. And all you really become is the average of the average. So what you don't want to be doing is playing a race to the bottom. So why not be the practice, the office in your town which charges the most? Someone's got to have that position. So why not it be you? And what we have realized is that patients very rarely buy on price. They very rarely will decide, if they're going to buy an implant, they're very rarely going to go to the cheapest. What they're going to go is the place where they got a great rapport with the people that work in the practice, with the dentist, the doctor themselves, and they're going to build. They're going to go with the practice where they feel they were treated well the most, and the environment was great. They got well looked after. The patient journey was excellent, and they feel comfortable about you doing a great job for them. What they're not going to do is go to 6 practices and decide who's the cheapest. I'm going to go there. So what you need to recognise is that very, very few patients buy on price, and so don't be the cheapest, because you don't have to be in your town.
One of the things that someone said to me once, I think on our show, was that patients are going to think dentistry is expensive no matter how much we discount or raise our prices. So if you tell a patient it's $600 for a crown, or you tell a patient it's $1,200 for a crown, they're both going to say that's expensive. And they don't know what your costs are. They don't know the value. And at the same time, you can't base, I guess, the thing that was so empowering to me about that was just this idea that if you raise your fees, it's going to be the same reaction as it was before. Patients are either going to accept it because you've done a great job of showing them the value, or they're going to, not accept it. And at the end of the day, the other concept that I love is that out of 10 patients, maybe, the bottom 2 are going to accept, not the bottom 2, but 2 of them are going to accept what you present or what you propose to them kind of no matter what. And 2 of them are not going to accept it no matter what. And then there's kind of these 6 in the middle that, depending on how good of a job you do of presenting and building value and building a relationship, can be influenced by your kind of your presence and your offering. Does that make sense? Is that a useful framework to think about?
Let me answer that. Let me answer that statement with you with 2 interesting facts. Now, the first thing is that when I working with clients, I say to them that ethical selling, it's not about selling things to people that don't want and need. It really is about building rapport, the questions you ask. But it has to be with the right type of patient. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by the right type of patient. For example, if you are in the UK, a National Health Service practice, right? You might do National Health Service and you might do private, okay? But if you put the words NHS out, what you're accepting is that I'm taking anyone with a pulse as a patient. In other words, anyone come in, right? So theoretically, amongst that group of people, you can discuss the price of a crown, you can discuss anything, but there is going to be a group of patients amongst that crowd that if you tell them a crown is $150, they're still going to tell you it's expensive, and they probably would rather spend their money on a tattoo for their arse or the butt than have the treatment done. Now, what you need to accept is this, and this is what I mean by the right type. The right type of patient or the right type of client is someone who values what you do, who's genuinely interested in what you are offering in your practice. Does that make sense? It has to be the right time. Now, what you need to accept is that there will be always a group of patients, depending on where you are, is that they may not everyone loves white, beautiful, straight, gorgeous teeth and wants to have a Hollywood smile. Now, you've got to accept it, move on, but don't take it personally. Now, once you've accepted that not everyone's going to say yes, and you can manage that expectation, then when you are quoting a fee to a patient, here's the big thing. And I think a lot of doctors are very poor at this. They are terrible. Again, I'm generalizing. Not everyone's like this. But what they're not very good at is explaining to the patient what's included in the fee. So, for example, let's say you're straightening a patient's teeth. Okay, so the doctor, and I see this all the time on my courses, they'll quote the fee and they'll say, well, it includes the braces and includes the appointment, includes retention. Now, how many patients know what retention is?
Right, they have no clue.
They haven't got a clue because they didn't go on the same courses as you. So instead of just saying that, what you need to then say is change the terminology of saying, well, it's not a fee, it's an investment. Your investment for the treatment is this. But let me explain to you what it includes. So it includes the design and manufacture of your brace. It's specifically made for you. It includes all your appointments over a 12-month period or 18-month period, however long the treatment is. Explain to the patient what happens when you take the braces off. Explain to the patients what retention is, why it's important. Tell the patient you're going to monitor them for further 18 months thereafter, because that might only be 3 10-minute appointments. And explain to them that what we do at this office, that it's a 3-year journey, and not just that we're going to make sure that we're going to monitor your teeth for 3 years and make sure that hopefully your teeth stay straight for the rest of your life. Now it's a completely different. The patient now thinks, well, I'm not just getting that, I'm getting all this, and now I can understand what's going to happen after. Now I understand why I'm getting all this after the treatment's finished, and I'm getting 3 years, a long-term relationship. I understand now. And that way the patient can then see the value that you are providing. So what I have discovered is, and I do this on the courses, and I role play and I practice and coach dentists like mad on this, is explain to the patient what they get, why they get it, what the benefits are, and explain that they're on a 3-year journey. Everything's included in the fee. And then hopefully you should get less objections and patients will see the value that you provide, providing you have got the right type of client in your database to start off with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and I love that. I love the idea of kind of that right kind of patient.
Yeah.
The fact is that not everyone is the right kind of patient. And the thing that I like about that idea is that it gives yourself a little bit of grace when you do try and present a little bit more treatment and you realize, okay, this isn't the kind of patient that values this, and you kind of discover that as you're presenting treatment.
Correct.
You don't feel like you've failed. You've just realized, okay, this isn't the right kind of patient. So you don't set up this impossible standard of, man, if I was just better at presenting treatment, everyone would say yes.
Yeah.
Because that's not true. It's not realistic.
No, it's not. Well, I'm giving an example. Let me explain to you about my business. Right, now, we will have about, just on my ethical selling course alone, not the reception program, not the practice managers courses, because we run 9 other courses, but just on the ethical sales course alone, this year, we will probably have close on about 1,500 dentists, team members worldwide.
Wow.
Okay. And that's a lot of courses that we deliver, you can imagine. And that's worldwide. So, I'm going to the States in 3 weeks. I'm doing 2 2-day courses there. And chances are there'll be, nearly 80 to 90 people will go through those. Maybe close on to 100 delegates will go through those courses whilst I'm there. Now, which is a lot of dentists, a lot of people.
Yeah.
Considering, now, tomorrow night, I will be speaking in London I'm doing a 2-hour lecture. And we will have 80 dentists in the room. Now, at the end of that presentation, I will do a little pitch on my 2-day course. I explain to them what we can do, how we can do it, and share with them. Now, I'm pretty good at this, but I can tell you now that out of 80 dentists in that room, we'll be lucky if maybe 10 to 15, maybe 15 people might sign up for the courses that we offer. Every dentist in that room should do the program. Every dentist needs to do it,
right.
But only about 15 will do it, and 65 won't do it. Now, out of that 65, we might get, I don't know, maybe another 15, 20 over the next few years. But I would say half that room will never take my course, never in a million years, even though we can make it cost effective, even make it pay over installments. They would rather struggle and get by on National Health Service funding than actually take the program. And that's a reality, and I've accepted that, but I'm still doing very, very well. Does that make sense? And doctors also need to recognize that, again, depending on where who they are, who their client base is, not every single person is going to want beautiful, white, gorgeous, straight Hollywood smiles. It's impossible. Not everyone wants it. Not everyone can afford it, and not everyone actually wants it. It's not a high enough priority.
This is great. And I would then ask, my follow-up question is, what are some questions that we can ask to identify who are the patients that are more likely to accept treatment, and that it's worth kind of our time to go a little bit more in depth in what's possible. How do you filter out these patients? Because just the idea that some patients are never going to say yes, and that's okay, that's a powerful idea unto itself. But then, okay, so how do I effectively use my time and spend more time with the patients that have the potential to say yes?
Right. Well, it depends. There's obviously there's various contexts to that question that you've asked me. So, can I share an example?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, I'm currently coaching a dental practice in the States at the moment. In fact, I was on a conference call with them. It was evening for me. It was lunchtime for those guys yesterday. Now, they offer free consultations for implant treatment. They give 30-minute appointments away. That's a strategy they've had in their practice for a while. So, by offering a free consultation, you are obviously going to get more people coming through your door because it's free. And when it's free, you get more people ringing you up saying, can I have a free consultation? Now, what you need to do is establish whether you've got a prospect, that's somebody who's really interested now, or a suspect, that's somebody who's never going to buy, or maybe it's not the right time, right?
Right.
The key questions that your receptionist or we call them receptionists in the UK, the people that answer the telephone, your front line. The key questions are: can you tell me a little bit more about your concern? How long have you been thinking about this treatment for? But what's caused your interest now? Do you have an event or a social situation coming up where this is important to you? Now, those three questions, you can very, very quickly establish whether you've got someone who's really interested now, or maybe they're looking at something in the future. So if the patient turns around and says, well, I've been thinking about this treatment for 5 years, any particular reason why now? Yeah, well, I'm fed up of eating fish. I can't eat certain foods. Or my daughter's getting married in 12 months' time, and I don't like the fact that I've got this loose denture, and I want to be more confident and smart. So there's a reason. Normally, there's a reason, and from there, you can establish if you've got someone who's genuinely interested now, or someone who maybe just are dipping their toe because they're not yet quite ready to buy. So those are the three questions.
Let me try and ask them, because I think I've already lost one of them in my mind. So you asked, how long has this been a concern? Is that the first question?
So let's say a patient's interested in straight teeth or implant, whatever it is. Can you tell me more about your concern?
Okay. Can you tell me more about your concern? Okay.
Yeah. How long have you been thinking about this for?
How long have you been thinking about this for? Okay.
And why now? What's caused your interest now? Do you have an event or a social, something coming up where this is important to you? Do you have a deadline that we need to know about? Now, those three questions, you should establish whether you've got someone who's really interested in the treatment now, or somebody who's just dipping the toe in.
So, and Dr. Elliott actually brought up these questions when we were talking last night. But the thing that you just said that was interesting was that you mentioned having your front desk team member ask these questions to the patient. Is it on the phone or when they first come in?
Yeah.
How would you kind of build that into your workflow there?
Well, you can do it both. If they come face to face, or you do it on the telephone.
Okay, cool.
But absolutely do it on the telephone, because the more information you've got about the patient anyway, and you pass that on to the doctor or the treatment coordinator, the better rapport you can build with the patient. So absolutely, you can do it at the desk.
So it seems like these open-ended questions are great for every team member to kind of have in their arsenal, whether it's front desk answering phones, whether it's an assistant talking to the patient, whether it's the hygienist talking with the patient, because they're so open-ended and kind of just put the ball back in the patient's court and allow them to talk. No matter what, it's going to be a good conversation that comes out of any of those questions.
Yeah. The bottom line is this. Every single person in your office is in sales. one way or another.
Right.
Whether it's the front desk, whether it's the hygienist, whether it's the doctor, whether it's the nurse, every single person, the practice manager, you're all in sales, you're all in it together. And the patient, when they come through your practice, they'll see you all along the way. And all it needs is one or two people who aren't very good at this, who don't see themselves, who haven't been professionally trained. I call them sales prevention officers, and they can make they can make them they can bring the whole thing down. Yeah, and the most important person who's least trained, I normally find, is the person that actually picks the phone up in the first place.
And this is something that Dr. Elliott shared last night as well, where she was talking about sleep apnea and how when patients who are calling about sleep apnea call in, she said that she's had patients later tell her, I could tell from the first phone call that your office was the one that I needed to be at, that you guys had it together, you knew what you're doing. And so that's extremely hard to do over the phone, to present that level of care, knowledge, efficiency, systems, and competency. But it's amazing that we can sense that even over the phone.
Absolutely. And well, the two things is, the first thing is your receptionist, your front desk people have to be professionally trained in sales, have to understand the process. I've got to be able to close for the appointment, make sure the patient comes through the door. But the second thing is where the telephone is answered in the first place. If you've got somebody ringing up about sleep apathy or implants or any sort of treatment, this is a life-changing conversation they want to have with you. And if you're answering the telephone at the reception desk with 5 patients in front of you, there's no way in the world you can deal with that telephone inquiry effectively as well as it should. So yeah, you've got to train these people, professionally trained. We have a reception course online as well if people are interested in the States. We deliver these courses all the time in the UK, but also it's where the telephone call is answered as well. Ideally you want to answer that call away from the desk so they've got no distractions and you can give that patient 100% of your attention. So the reason why it's probably great at Erin's practice, and I know Erin came over to the UK to take my courses and she's done a few courses with me, is that she's probably adopted that and a team have probably been professionally trained as well. If I know anything about Erin, it'll be a top notch at their practice.
Oh yeah. Well, so what you just said was super interesting to me because, I was thinking that we weren't going to talk about this ethical sales idea at all during this interview because we've embraced in this season the idea that this training, sales training, is valuable for dentists and is necessary. But now the question is, okay, we've embraced that for the dentists, but to turn around and tell your team members, you are all in sales and that we need to have you professionally trained in sales. I think that's almost a hard conversation to have. What would you say to the dentist who's like afraid of doing that, of broaching that subject with their team and telling their team, I need you to be a top-notch presenter of treatment. I need you to be I can't even say it. Like the word, I was about to say a top-notch salesman and I couldn't say that. I couldn't say that word. I had to stop myself because I felt like, I don't want to say that to my team members.
No,
so what would you say?
Yeah, well, you have to get me to do it for them.
Right, exactly.
Well, a couple of things really. Normally you need to hear it. It needs to be someone else that would often say it. The old sage that you never listen to your wife or the people that you're very close with, but someone else says it a different way, then it makes it more meaningful, and they take it on board when someone else says it a different way. But the very obvious thing is, God, Disney do it the best, don't they? But take them to a really top-notch restaurant and just watch how the waiters behave. Watch that, really somewhere very nice, and just see how they all, and then come back and discuss what you noticed, what did you see happening, and discuss that selling. It's not about my definition of selling is building rapport with the right type of client. If you ask them to think about a time when they bought something off somebody and they had great, what skills and attitudes did that salesperson possess? They'll probably tell you that they were friendly, they were nice, they built good rapport. Now, the second thing about ethical selling is just about how to ask questions. It's all about asking questions. And the third thing is it's solving the problem in a language that the patient understands. It's not talking too technical. It's not talking about titanium screws. I know there's a time and place for that. And the fourth part is saying to the patient, how do you feel about this? And it's a natural conversation. It's not about hard selling. So if you were to ask me, what would I do? Ideally, you want to hear somebody else say it different, because we never listen to the people we love the most. But also, is to get them to sit in a room and discuss the time when they had a great experience from a salesperson, and what skills and attitudes did that salesperson possess? What traits did they demonstrate? And then you'll realize that person didn't hard sell them, that they had a lot of qualities that we can absolutely copy and use in the dental office as well.
I love that. So I love there's two specifics there. This idea of going to a high-end restaurant with your team, I think that's phenomenal. I mean, first off, it gives you an excuse to go try out all the high-end restaurants in your area before you do the team meeting. So that's step number one is take your spouse or your partner on some dates and find a really good high service restaurant in the area. And then, schedule a team meeting and do a team meeting beforehand saying, hey, we're going to go to this restaurant with a purpose. I want you guys to be taking notes on your phone of what are the things that people say and do, how do we feel, and how does that compare to walking into McDonald's or walking into a restaurant where people don't have the attention to detail and aren't caring about you and your evening. I think that's and then you can do another team meeting on the back end of that of a debrief. And then another
take them to Ruth Chris. I mean, they do it really well, don't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so here's a confession. So I'm still finishing up my Army commitment. I'm an Army dentist going into practice ownership here, and I've never been to Ruth Chris. It's been so now I have to take my wife to Ruth Chris. So she's going to be really excited about this interview. So, and then the second activity there was just asking them, when have you had, I want everyone to come up with a good example and a bad example of times where you've bought something or you've had a great experience buying something, and what did that mean and what did that look like? It seems like a great exercise that's really straightforward and inexpensive, but then ultimately this idea that I'm not going to be able to teach them and train them, even if I took all of the same things, even if I took all of Ashley Ladder's online courses and watched all your YouTube videos and came and took your course in person, I could become much better myself, but getting my team to that same level is probably not realistic. I'm probably going to have to bring them training in some way, shape, or form and get them to take that from someone else.
Yeah. Got it.
It's so funny how true that is, where people just don't want to listen to the people they already know and love. Okay, great. So this was a great outline of both some mindset, some specific questions, some ways that we can introduce these concepts to our team, and then steps that we can take. This has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for this interview. What is the best way for people to learn more about you, reach out to you? Where's the website, social media channels, YouTube channel? What are the addresses and ways to connect?
So best place is to go to www.ashley, that's ASHLEY, Latter, which is spelled LATTER.com. Now from there, you're in a great place. We do a lunch and learn video every week, which is full of tips, so cool. You can sign up for that. We do a podcast ourselves, which it's called Two Reds Are Better Than One, on iTunes. And then you'll see a shop there. There's books, there's CDs, there's online courses, and tons of resources. So if they go to the website,
Cool.
ashleylaughter.com, I know Ashley's a girl's name in the States. It's still a boy's name here.
There we go. Okay.
Because every time I deliver a course, there's always an Ashley who's a lady. So, but yeah, if you go there, you're in the right place. And if you go to my YouTube channel, there's about, I reckon, well over 150 videos now on there. So there's plenty of stuff there that you can download and watch.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for your years of helping dentists with this, as it's something we are in dire need of. And hopefully someday soon in the future, I'll get the chance to take one of your courses here in the States or in the UK. I think that would be amazing.
Great. Come over to Manchester.
Awesome. Well, we will have all of those links in the show notes. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will listen to you next time on the Shared Practices podcast. Okay, that was amazing. I loved that. Hopefully you get to hear Ashley sometime in the US or the UK. It's a good excuse to travel. Absolutely worth it from what I've seen and what I've been told. And on my bucket list is to take his course at some point. So, please buy his books, reach out and sign up for one of his courses. You're not going to regret that at all. So this has been another episode of the Shared Practices podcast. If you don't know, we do have previous seasons of Should I Own a Dental Practice Season 1 and How to Buy One Season 2. And if you know someone who could benefit from the idea of, hey, I can actually own a dental practice. This is not something unobtainable. This is not something crazy. And here's the steps to do it. Please share the show with someone else. Or if you yourself didn't realize we had all that, go back and listen to Season 1, Season 2. Great content there about how to actually buy a dental practice. And then we just launched our first round of group coaching of the Ownership Accelerator, and are building some exciting things here with Matt and George, Dr. Hariri and Dr. Carino, and you'll be hearing more of them on the show coming up. So we will talk with you guys next week. We have another heavy hitter coming in with Dr. Bruce Baird from Productive Dentist Academy. The event that they held in Indianapolis was phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. Vicki McManus and Dr. Baird, they're just amazing people. I very much enjoyed hearing them in person, getting to know them. So you'll be excited to hear the interview next week. We'll talk with you next week on the Shared Practices podcast.